Hi everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Low Season Traveller Insider Guides. I'm your host, Jed Brown, founder of Low Season Traveller, and this episode was taken from the 8th session of the Keeping the Dream Alive series of webinars, which we're collaborating on with the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage and My Travel Research. This episode is entitled Crisis and Innovation and has been one of the most popular sessions we've ever had, largely due to the fact that our keynote speaker has such an incredibly rich experience to draw upon from her time in the travel industry. Tammy Marshall is the founder of the B Hive, a business transformation consultancy specialising in business strategy and transformation, innovation coaching and design thinking in the hospitality, leisure, lifestyle and tourism sectors. Alongside her work at the B Hive, Tammy has a strong connection with the startup community as a mentor to the startup programme at Sydney University, and she's also served as an advisor and mentor to several industry and university incubators and accelerators. With over 30 years of experience in the travel and tourism industry, Tammy has held an executive career with some of the biggest names in travel and tourism. Her past roles include Senior Vice President of Commercial for Carnival Corporation, Managing Director of Contiki Holidays, Global Managing Director of AAT Kings, Founder of Inspiring Journeys, Senior Vice President of P&amp Cruises, and COO at TFE Hotels. Tammy is an experienced non-executive director for the Youth Hostel International and Yankee Leisure Group, and she's also a member of the Lorette University Advisory Board. Tammy loves everything about the outdoors, the beach, hiking and yoga, and anytime she can, she's off exploring new and favourite destinations. Have a listen and find out just why this session has been so popular. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, and thanks everyone for tuning in today. So I'm sure many of you are already thinking about how we can turn our current reality into opportunities and how we can exploit this crisis to accelerate positive change. And there's never really been a better time to prioritise innovation, and that's exactly the focus today. This is an opportunity for our industry to reset and start with a blank canvas, and I'm really excited to share how people are approaching innovation and how we can reimagine the future. So the topics for today, I'll touch on our current reality, why we need to think differently. And whilst we can't predict what's going to change, we can start to evolve and keep pace with market shifts and consumer desires. And I hope to provide you some inspiration on how businesses are adapting and also share some mega trends that are quite significant and relevant today. And then there's a lot of buzz around rebuilding the future, but I'd like to talk about how to reimagine through innovation. So the coronavirus outbreak has first and foremost been a human tragedy, but it's also a financial and social crisis. And the environment has been one of the clear winners from the pandemic. We've seen the peaks of Himalayas visible from parts of India, which is the first time in decades. We've seen the waterways in Venice clear of pollution, and noticeably a clean air movement around the world. But we know there is lots of fear and uncertainty, and generally because unknowns make us anxious. The world we used to know was predictable, and whilst we're hardwired really to dislike uncertainty. So that's exactly what we need to do, embrace uncertainty and start to reimagine the next normal. So the most important factor for business survival is an emphasis on innovation and reinvention. And just to give you a great example of reinvention, Samsung began its life as a grocery trading store specializing in noodles. They moved into textiles and then into shipping, and now, as we all know, into smartphones. So they continued to reinvent themselves. And as we know, companies have never stopped innovating. The emphasis today is more out of necessity rather than trying to increase strategic advantage. So our topic for today, or the theme, surviving to thriving. I think we can all appreciate we're going to need to change, and there will be a next normal. We've all had time out to really pause and reflect on what's important and potentially what will change. Changes in our freedom to travel makes us more grateful for the experiences we've had, and travellers are becoming more conscious and aware of their impact. And I think as a result of COVID-19, we know consumers are re-evaluating their priorities. So in order to reset, We need to keep pulse on changing market needs. We need to obsess about our customer and dig deep into what really matters most to them. And we're also seeing businesses apply new safety protocols. We've seen a huge push to online for many businesses as they accelerate the adoption of digital technologies. And as we reimagine, reinvention becomes, excuse me, a necessity. So innovation is a design-led, consumer-centric approach. It's a circular process, just like a dog chasing its own tail. You always need to be creating value that fulfills a customer need. We need to define that opportunity. We need to build, test, learn, and then keep doing that all over again. So this is an opportunity to rethink our businesses and industry, to grasp opportunities, to align with these emerging mega trends and themes, and satisfy new consumer needs. So this is, I kind of see COVID-19 in 3 phases, and I think this will be familiar to most people, or most of you as businesses have moved through parts of this. Phase 1 was all about survival for our sector. Most travel businesses have right-sized their cost base for now, and the focus has been on transitioning people to work from home and just overcoming the sheer volume of operational challenges. But businesses are really starting to look now at the next horizon. And so while travel is on pause, it's been time to really reflect and reset. And to me, this is the most critical time to plan, to reposition, to retool, and be ready for the easing of travel restrictions. And we know this is going to be a long game. We know people are going to travel again, but we need to rebuild demand, and we need to factor in the health concerns that helps build confidence for people to travel again. But more than this, we are seeing a shift in values and a significant change in how we expect people will travel in the future. So customers are also reevaluating and reflecting during this time as well. So this is a great book that I read recently, Jeremy Gucci, Exploiting Chaos. He says that chaos changes the rules, chaos reshuffles the deck, and chaos switches who's in the lead. So after crisis comes chaos before we start to rechart our course. And importantly, chaos creates new bubbles of opportunity. And today, innovation becomes a necessity. Disney, CNN, MTV, Hyatt, Burger King, IBM, Merck, 20th Century, FedEx, the list goes on. All these organizations were founded in periods of economic recession. So everyone wants and sees a need for innovation, but 94% of executives are dissatisfied with innovation. We struggle to get it right. And why? Because there's limited customer insight, there's a lack of clarity on what problems to solve, poor coordination, and risk-averse cultures. But COVID-19 creates more urgency for our industry to get it right. So whenever we start the innovation process, we actively seek inspiration. And often inspiration can come from many adjacent sectors as well. But let's look at what some of the businesses are doing right now in terms of adapting. So I'm sure you're very familiar with these brands. These brands are doing a great job of staying relevant and top of mind. Club Med has done a great job of setting up a virtual hub of activities. Each week they publish new recipes, new training workouts, entertainment for the kids. G Adventures also recently launched virtual tours and experiences across all of their destinations. You can wander the streets of Buenos Aires from your couch, you can learn a new skill, and they're even providing food and drink pairing with their experience. And hopefully these virtual products will become a lead generator for the future. Airbnb and Get Your Guide launched a new virtual sharing platform that connects hosts or guides and provides new experiences from your lounge room. This is a great example of companies adapting their business model. And what's really impressive is the speed in which these companies launched their platform. Airbnb has over 50 experiences in 30 countries. You can meditate with a Japanese monk, you can attend a tango concert in Argentina, or do a warm-up round with British gold cyclist Alistair Brownlee. And Get Your Guide is also offering these virtual experiences. And many operators are now wondering if going virtual can actually lead to a new revenue stream and keep them afloat in this travel pause. So when Australian government announced restaurants were to close, chef from Atlas Dining started selling meal kits at home, followed by an online masterclass. The meal kits have covered all kinds of cuisine, but interestingly, he's had some of his biggest trading days ever. And restaurants are also going out on their own instead of farming out the customer relationship to the sharing economy. Some are starting to service their own deliveries, and that's exactly what Bold has done. Uber Eats and Deliveroo have become gatekeepers between restaurants and customers, and they're taking a pretty large clip of the ticket. Foxtail Supper Club, it's a new virtual startup, and diners can come together at a specific place and time via Zoom. Meal kits are delivered prior with some final finishing touches to the cooking instructions, and then they can enjoy a 5-course dinner with friends or with strangers. And enjoying a meal at a restaurant could look like Mediamatic in the future, as restaurants find new ways to operate and to protect public health. And so they've obviously created these outdoor greenhouses for small groups. And most airlines now are going mainstream in terms of showcasing how their aircraft are adapting to aircraft cleaning and hygiene procedures to reassure passengers that cabins are clean. Air New Zealand just released a fantastic video which addresses what they've changed. You know, they've closed the airport check-in kiosk, they've moved everything to the mobile app, they've put in physical distancing markers in place at the airport, they've spaced seating on board. You now board by zones, and they've also shared the extra steps that they're taking in cleaning. And interestingly, they also mentioned that they have hospital-grade air conditioning that filters out the virus. And last but not least, we're also seeing the rise of startups, and Citata is a mobile-based platform to help travellers stay safe. It provides pre-trip advice and real-time monitoring of travel disruptions, and now they're working with the airlines to factor in COVID-19. And lots of companies are finding creative ways to stay relevant, and if you can't go to new places, then TripTuner is bringing the experience to you. It will find you your ideal experience by capturing key data that you enter in and provide you with live cam recommendations. And I guess what most of these examples have in common is the majority have a very strong digital component. They've adapted to the current environment. They've moved super fast. A lot of it's coming to your couch. And you know, they're experimenting, which drives innovation. They're testing things, they're learning, and they're continuing to adapt. So lots of innovation is happening, and I'm sure you guys have seen many more examples, but businesses are actually doing some fantastic things to really think outside the box. Okay, so let's look at some of the key emerging trends. Some of these trends were already on the radar, but what we're seeing is some of these actually really accelerate during the pandemic. So transformation, curation, multi-sensation, nostalgia, naturality, and trust. And I see these trends as something that's going to be significant for the foreseeable future. So transformation, people want more than creating memories. Transformation actually goes beyond experience. They want opportunities for personal growth and to make positive changes in their life. And I think a really good example of that is Transformation Travel Council. They've summed it up by saying transformation travel is intentionally traveling to stretch, learn, and grow in new ways of being and engaging in the world. And I think importantly, in times of uncertainty, personal growth gives people a sense of control. The next one is curation. Less really is more. And curation simplifies people's lives. Consumers are now looking for ways to navigate through all the clutter. They're looking for simplicity, speed, or just really to get the best option. And they want to spend less time researching. And I think we've all heard of the analysis paralysis. Too much choices creates unnecessary complexity. And this is a great TED talk of a very famous experiment where researchers set up 2 gourmet food stores selling quality jams, one store selling 6 jams and the other selling 24 jams. Both stores, people tasted about the same amount, but 30% of people purchased from the first store with only 6 jams, and only 3% of people purchased from the second store with 24 jams. And I guess the argument is that too much choice is a bad thing. And in a time of crisis, people are looking for simplicity, so it's best to simplify. So in terms of multi-sensation, we're looking for these truly immersive and interactive experiences. Home entertainment is more important than ever, and we're already seeing more people spend time at home before COVID-19 hit. And everyone has great entertainment due to technology. And a great example of this is for those living in the UK, you may have already heard of Secret Cinema. And Secret Cinema has grown from a small cult following to a huge entertainment event. It's a film club, it's an interactive event, and it's a live performance where you're expected to play a role. It's just like being in a movie. And they recently launched immersive viewing parties from your living room. And I'm sure Jed's probably experienced some of that. He might share that with us later. Okay, so nostalgia. This has become very prevalent, and probably if you reflect on it yourself, you may find it's something that you're experiencing as well. Nostalgia is about tapping into fond memories. It's about embracing your playful side, or maybe we should just call it playtime for adults. But playfulness taps into fun and a stress-free era. It's about escaping current problems and uncertainties, and it's certainly more prevalent during crisis. People crave simpler times, and nostalgia is a common response to distress. And according to Neil Burton, the philosopher and psychiatrist, nostalgia is our time machine to another preferable place or state of mind. So I don't know about you, but I've been craving listening to some old tunes, and apparently we're loving Bob Dylan, Dixie Chicks, Bob Marley. The oldies are doing so much better than the new music, and Google searches for classic movies has never been higher. Something for you to also reflect on. Naturality was already gathering momentum, or has been gathering momentum for some time, but it's now a very strong movement in social channels, and people are becoming more socially conscious. They want to do the right thing. And this is the basic idea that people want to see more sustainable products. They want things to be local, organic, recyclable, and reducing carbon footprint can feel good in times when things are more volatile. And this is the pandemic. This is the pandemic has maybe been the wake-up call that the world is really a fragile place. So 72% of people prefer to buy from ethical or sustainable brands. And in Booking.com's sustainable travel research last year, they also revealed that almost 3/4 of travellers, and it was regardless of age, believe that people need to act now to make sustainable travel choices to save the planet for future generations. And again, that's something that we're seeing accelerate during this time. And the final one is trust. People want to trust the brands they buy from. The essence is that people want to believe you have their best interests at heart, and you believe brands will deliver on their promises and support them in their own personal journey. So you don't want to sugarcoat, you want to be frank with your customers, because sometimes they can be part of the solution. So I guess the behaviours really underpinning trust is truth-telling, and customers have a really good instinct for this, transparency, and just having strong relationships and showing you care. And I thought a good example of this was the Airbnb CEO, Brian Chesky, who recently fired 25% of his company, and he did it in a very human way. He put himself in his employee's head. He was absolutely transparent on the decision-making process. He approached it honestly, and it was a very heartfelt and vulnerable way that he communicated. And it's definitely worth reading on Google if you haven't already seen it. So crisis is really a time to prove that you are trustworthy. And hotel chain Marriott is easily the most searched brand on Google and one of the most trusted hospitality brands in the world. And they've stepped up during the COVID-19 outbreak, donating 10 million free hotel stays to healthcare workers on the front lines. And you can see here that 1/3 of consumers say they would stop buying products from a brand they lost trust in. So it's pretty powerful in terms of gathering momentum. So they're basically the 6 mega trends that are things that you can think about in terms of how you can shape your product, service, or communications to be really relevant today. And so how this all comes together, I kind of see this as like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a lens you can use to help you innovate. At the bottom, the psychological and safety needs. I think trust and naturality are non-negotiables on trying to satisfy consumer desires. People want to trust the brands they do business with, and people want to see the environment protected for a better future. Even small gestures will make them feel good. And then we have, I guess, in the middle, in a fast-paced world, minimalism is what truly stands out. So you do need to keep it simple. And consumer expectations are on the rise in the realm of immersive experiences. So how can you utilize technology to really deliver a fully immersive experience? And of course, nostalgia. This is something that I think will stay with us. How can you really engage your customers and connect with them using some of these memories from the past or other senses to try and interact with them? And of course, transformation, just like Maslow's self-actualization, this is the ultimate goal. How do we deliver an experience but really help our customers stretch, grow, and learn? So through this crisis overall, I think people are experiencing businesses show empathy and flexibility and responsiveness, and hopefully this is something that we can hold on and continue to do. Okay, so we've looked at what businesses are doing. We've touched on the accelerating megatrends, and this is how we actively start the innovation process. We actively seek inspiration, and we look to try and understand the trends that matter. But now we'll briefly look at the process to make this happen. So there's enormous value in a design-led process. The impact from designing better businesses from a customer-centric perspective can't be underestimated, because this is a key driver for growth. Design encourages us to think beyond our own frame of reference, and it empowers us to be more empathetic and dive into what really matters. So the key components is starting with breaking down the barriers, and we're going to touch on this a bit more. Keep the pulse on, the emerging trends. Spend time with customers to understand their needs and perspectives. Act on those insights and experiment fast, build, test, and learn. And part of the success is also aspiring to a new future, not the default future that everyone is heading to. It's very difficult sometimes to unravel what's already in place. So step one, earlier on we talked about 94% of executives are dissatisfied with innovation, and it's impossible to move forward without addressing barriers. Now is not the time for roadblocks. We developed a hierarchy of sins common across organisations to frame the narrative and have the necessary conversations. And we focus on these common blockers and also more broadly of what's getting in the way. But typically mindset and culture and how we approach the customer and execution strategy, all of these things can become blockers. And in order to move forward, these have to be addressed before you even start the innovation process. And of course, we're seeing emerging themes. So we've talked about some of the mega trends, but we're also seeing these other trends start to emerge. So we need to understand some of these broader trends to try and drive some inspiration. Obviously people are looking to create moments to escape. They're looking for enhanced shared experiences right now. And also, wellness has been a pretty big movement in the past, but we're seeing people develop even healthier habits through COVID-19. And of course, the key ingredient is talking to customers, clearly defining customer problems, synthesizing those insights and ideating. And it's really about having deeper conversations with your customers, not just about big data. Okay, so we use the design thinking double diamond. This is an iterative process, and it allows teams to identify and understand customer problems. This is about exploring creative and innovative ways to solve their problems. And you're probably familiar with Einstein's quote on problem solving. If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solution. Often we jump too quickly to solution mode. We have been trained that way, but that's something we need to unlearn. And this process is both divergent and convergent equally. So in the divergent thinking in the first diamond, we're thinking about being open-minded and challenging assumptions. We're learning as much as possible, being inclusive, and we're seeking out new and novel ideas. And then we move into convergent thinking, which everyone's usually very happy in this space, which is really the opposite. How do I prioritize? How do I choose the best ideas? How do I be decisive and focus on the most promising solutions, which most people are very happy in that space. And then finally, part of the process, this is about rewriting the future that's already written. The idea is to invent futures for the organization that didn't previously exist. And this happens through conversations, through a process of letting go of current plans and starting to see through a new lens. People have to be willing to really let go to start with that fresh canvas. And as we know, market forces and consumer behaviours are changing. So now's never been a better time to start looking at that. So I guess next steps for any business really is, have you removed all your barriers for innovation? Are you keeping pulse on what are those emerging green shoots? Are you talking to customers frequently and regularly to really understand the changing context? And what is it that you can start to build, test, learn, and pivot, and certainly reframe the future? And this is all about speed. It's no longer about companies spending months building. It's about creating concepts, building prototypes, testing and rolling it out fast. And that's what works and is so powerful if you trust the process. So this is a unique opportunity for the travel industry to evolve, to innovate, and meet changing consumer needs and values. We know people will travel again. We were born explorers, and when we can, we will start traveling again. And I'm sure most of you can't wait, like me, to leave our Groundhog Day behind. So we have the opportunity to reset how we travel, to ensure the tourism industry has a positive impact on the places it goes, and so socially, environmentally, and financially spreading the wealth throughout communities and the people we visit. So I'd highly recommend staying abreast of these green shoots, acting on these emerging customer insights and patterns and themes to adopt a design-led process to spark innovation. So let's embrace this opportunity and make a positive difference. And let's reimagine the future together. Thank you.
So there you have it. Huge thanks again to Tammy Marshall for sharing her insights on innovation with us this week. And if you haven't already done so, do have a listen to the Q&A from this session in the next episode, which is also out now. That's all for now. Enjoy your day, stay safe, stay healthy, stay home, and don't forget that our content will always be free for everyone, as we believe that travel is better without the crowds.